Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the course Global Communication. Today I am going to discuss with you the new public sphere, global civil society, public diplomacy and global governance. In this topic I will discuss with you the public sphere, its historical roots, and the public sphere and civil society. And there are different actors in public sphere. I will discuss these actors one by one later. And next I will discuss with you the public sphere and the constitutions of society. Next I will discuss with you in this topic the public diplomacy and the global public sphere. Also I will talk about global governance. So let's start from the new public sphere. So what does it mean by a new public sphere? The notion of the public sphere is the center of participatory approaches to democracy. The public sphere is the arena where citizens come together. They exchange opinions regarding public affairs. They discuss the topic, deliberate it, and eventually form public opinion. This arena can be a specific place where citizens gathered, for example, a town hall meeting, but it can also be a communication infrastructure through which citizens send and receive information and opinions. The public sphere is a central aspect of good governance. Without a functioning and democratic public sphere, government officials can't be held accountable for their actions, and citizens will not be able to assert any influence over political decisions. The idea of the public sphere is normative, it's normative, and it's an ideal of good and accountable governance. It requisites a free flow of information, free expression, and free debate. The ideal public sphere is truly participatory, and the best protection against is the abuse of power. In reality, we can only find approximations to this ideal. However, promoting good governance means that striving towards the ideal of a truly inclusive public sphere. When you talk about the historical roots, to understand the meaning and the nature of the public sphere today, it is helpful to look at the historical development of the meaning of the term. Its meaning has always been closely tied to historical circumstances and to technical developments. The historical trajectory also highlights the relevance of the public sphere for promoting democracy and political accountability. Originally, the public sphere was a specific meeting place. With the development of media and communication technology, the characteristic of the public sphere changed from a location to a communication network. The communication network, I think I already discussed this topic with you before in my previous lectures. Now I will also discuss the public sphere in the civil society. The democratic public sphere is basically a structural force in politics. You could say a critical part of the architecture of good governance, which again is crucial for the elimination of poverty. The public sphere is basically a participatory space where citizens' voices are amplified. The concept of the public sphere is closely tied to civil society, although they are not synonymous. Civil society organizations act and it gain voice and influence in the public sphere, thereby exerting influence or official authorities through public opinion. It is the free and open public sphere that social movements acquire a public voice, fight for recognition, assert themselves, seek to shape public opinion, and also at influence leaders and policymakers, and at bring about change. Good and accountable governance builds upon a free flow of information, free expression, and free discussion of matters of political concern. Next, I am going to discuss with you the different actors in the public sphere. Like the number first is the public, the civil society, and the public officials, the media, and also the private actors. So what does it mean by the public? The traditional understanding of the public refers to an imaginary group of people that are connected to through their mutual interest, and one or several issues of public concern. The members of the public need not to be located in the same place. In contemporary social science, the term is also acquainted with political relevant groups of citizens. For instance, the electorate, a civil society, local communities, or mass media audiences, or politicians. The second actor in public sphere is the civil society. Civil society and the public both are closely related to each other, but conceptually not synonymous. Civil society is constituted by organizations and activities that have no primary political or commercial characters. They are not motivated by profit or power. Under certain circumstances, they can become part of public sphere. The next actor is the public officials. In public officials, you could say that the state is not a part of the public sphere, but it has the capacity and even the obligations to be an actor in the public sphere. In the democratic public sphere, public authorities listen to the public and determine the public will, communicate their own issues and positions. They also provide information about decisions and actions. The next is the media. The mass media have central significance in the creation of an institutional infrastructure, enabling the organizations of the general interest, both nationally and internationally. In addition, I will say that it also providing communication channels. The mass media also introduce and shape topics of public discussions. Different communication channels or platforms like electronic media or print media, or you could say the social media. The last actor is the private actors. Private actors means that when private citizens or public corporations enter the public sphere, they usually do so to promote private or public interests. In the latter case, they become part of the public. The next is the public sphere and the constitutions of society. Here I am going to discuss with you that between the state and society lies the public sphere, a network for communicating information and points of view. The public sphere is an essential component of socio-political organizations because it is the space where people come together as citizens, and they also articulate their autonomous views to influence the political institutions of society. Civil society is the organized expression of these views in the relationship between the state and civil society. It is the cornerstone of democracy. Without an effective civil society capable of structuring and challenging citizens' debate over diverse ideas and conflicting interests, the state drifts away from its subjects. The state's interactions with its citizens is reduced to election periods, largely shaped by political marketing and special interests groups, and characterized by choice within a narrow spectrum of political options. The material expression of public sphere varies with the context, history, and technology. But its current practices, it is certainly different from the ideal type of 18th century. I will say like the physical space, which particularly public space in cities, as well as in universities, cultural institutions, and informal networks of public opinion. Formations have always been important elements in shaping the development of the public sphere. Media have become the major component of public sphere in the industrial society, because if communication networks of any kind form of the public sphere, then our society and the network society, they organize its public sphere more than any other historical form of organization. So on the basis of media communication networks, further I will say that the public sphere is not just the media or the socio-spatial sites of public interactions. It is the cultural or informational repository of the ideas or projects that feed public debate. It is through the public sphere that diverse forms of civil society enact this public debate, ultimately influencing the decision of the state. On the other hand, you could see that the political institutions of society set the constitutional rules by which the debate is kept orderly and organizationally productive. So it's the interactions between the citizens, civil society, and the state. They are communicating through public sphere and ensures that the balance between stability and social change is maintained in the conduct of public affairs. So, if citizens, civil society, and the state fail to fulfill the demands of these interactions, or you could say if the channels of communications between two or more of the key components of the process are blocked, the whole system of representations and decision making comes to a stalemate. Therefore, the issue that I would like to bring to the forefront of this is that socio-political forms and processes are built upon cultural materials, and that these materials they are either produced by the political institutions as an expression of dominations. Next, I will talk about the public diplomacy and the global public sphere. Here, I will talk about that the public diplomacy is not a propaganda. It is not the government diplomacy. We do not need to use of a new concept to designate the traditional practices of diplomacy. Public diplomacy is the diplomacy of the public. That is the projections in the international arena of the values and ideas of public. The public is not the government because it is not formalized in the institutions of the state. By the public, we usually mean that what is common to a given social organization. The private is the modem of self-defined interest and values, while the public is the domain of the shared interest and values. The goal of the public diplomacy is a contrast to government diplomacy. It is not to assert power or to negotiate to rearrangement of power relationships. It is to induce a communication space in which a new common language they could emerge as a precondition for diplomacy, so that when the time for diplomacy comes, it reflects not only interest and power making, but also meaning and sharing. As you all know that we live in a globalized world, the space of political co-decisions is necessarily global, and the choices that we face is either to construct the global political system as an expression of power relationships without cultural mediations. So if the choice is the latter, public diplomacy understood as networked communications and a shared meaning becomes a decisive tool for the attainment of sustainable world order. Next, I am going to discuss with you the global governance. Basically, global governance brings together diverse actors to coordinate collective actions at the level of the planet. The goal of the global governance, roughly defined, is to provide a global public goods, particularly peace and security, justice and mediation system for conflict, functioning markets, and unified standards for trade and industry. As you all know that the leading institution in charge of global governance today is the United Nations, and United Nations was founded in 1945 in the wake of the Second World War. Is a way to prevent future conflicts, and that scale the United Nations doesn't directly bring together the people of the world, but sovereign nations states. And currently it counts 193 members of the United Nations currently, who make recommendations through the United Nations General Assembly. The UN's main mandate is to preserve global security, which it does particularly through the Security Council. In addition, the United Nations can settle international legal issues through the International Court of Justice, and implements its key decisions through the Secretariat led by the Secretary General. As you all know that currently Kulbhushan Jadhav case is in progress through the International Court of Justice. The United Nations has added a range of areas to its core mandate since 1945. It works through a range of agencies and associated institutions, particularly to ensure greater shared prosperity is a desirable goal in itself and is an indirect way to increase global stability. So is a key initiative in that regard. In 2015, the United Nations articulated the sustainable development goals, creating common goals for the collective future of the planet. Beyond the United Nations, other institutions with a global mandate play an important role in global governance, like the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, whose function is to regulate the global economy and credit markets. These institutions, they are not without their critics, for these very reasons, being often blamed for maintaining economic inequality. Global governance is more generally effective through a range of organizations acting as intermediary bodies. So I will summarize that global governance is essential but fragmented, complex, and little understood. And this contains the key questions raised by the Global Challenges Foundations is that how to re-inform institutions, how to develop alternative institutions, and how to use the new possibilities of technology to improve governance. So I think that's enough for today. I will come with a next topic in next video lecture. So thank you so much. Good luck. Stay safe. If you have any question, you can ask me directly or you can give me feedback through KCMS account. Thank you so much.